Hello, and welcome to In Time, a music history podcast. I'm your host, Zachary Singer, and we've got something new going on today. I have with me Eric Schrantz, my best friend in the world, known him since I was 12 years old. Brilliant musician, music teacher, funk tank arranger. That is a thing. There is a tank. It gives you funk. We'll talk about it, I'm sure.
Dude, honestly, I got to back up for a second. If you're labeling me your best friend, I feel like I've... I guess I feel bad for you.
That's my problem. That's not your problem. All right. So this week, we're just going to give you guys a little interview session here. This is going to be our first YouTube video as well. And so we're just going to be messing around with the format a little bit. If things are a little funky, oh well, who cares? It's just the internet. So, first off, Eric, what do you want us to know about you other than the music teacher and driving a tank of funk?
Driving a tank of funk. It's a think tank of funk musicians. I don't know. I don't really want anybody to know anything about me. You know?
So you came on a podcast.
Yeah, it's like, well, I mean, what do you want to know about me? You know, I can't assume you want to know anything.
That's fair. Yeah. All right, then let's start here. I've been spending a lot of time lately just trying to think about music's role and like how we use it for essentially where our thought process stops. Mm-hmm. Like anytime we have these like deep wells of emotion, for some reason we just break into song, even if it's just internally. Mm-hmm. I'm kind of curious as to your thoughts. Why do you think that is? I
mean, it first and foremost, it's a form of expression. Mm-hmm. You know, retroactively, we go back and we assign a lot of intellectual, gravitas to it. Like we go back and we make math out of music and we analyze it and we assign theory. But like, you know, the physical aspect, like the physical expression of music comes before the codification of it. In theory. So, you know, whenever you say, like, it starts where our thoughts run out, it's like, well, because our thoughts ultimately, like, would reach a point that we feel the need to express them. And sometimes music expresses them, you know, better than words can, or maybe we don't have another form of expression.
Okay. So what I found interesting there is that it seems to be, like... that stupid quote that's like on every elementary and middle school music teacher's door, like where words fail, music speaks or something.
Yeah, or music is the language of the universe.
Or some kind of... like it's not wrong, but
I think music isn't necessarily the language of the universe. It's the manifestation of the language of the universe that we can comprehend. Yeah. You know, the language of the universe is like math. Or at least, again, like math is our interpretation of the actual language of the universe. But like... at its bare essence. And then, like, music is just one way that math manifests itself in a physical space that, or at least in a way that our brains can interpret. You know? Yeah.
So, silence your phones, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, wait, wasn't that
that wasn't my phone. It's okay.
The thing went up? Okay, whatever.
Yeah, well, it's okay.
You cut that out. Just like,
we'll just edit that. Yeah. So I like that you said that math is how we understand the universe, because that's almost verbatim something that I've been saying on this show for, well, the entirety of our show. Yeah. But I'm working, like towards the end of our season here, we're going to have like this essay that I'm working on that's going to be talking about how we should be teaching these fields as a unified subject matter. Mm-hmm. So the fact that you said that math is the language of the universe, or it's how we understand it, what do you think then the difference is between, let's say, math and science, because they are so interrelated, as to why, number one, why that is, but also what role that could play in an education setting?
I mean, between math and science, I feel like that's the same thing between reading and writing. You know, math is how we read whatever the actual language of the universe is. I guess you'd call it the voice of God, if you wanted to. Math is how we read it, and then science is how we try to write it. Yeah. You know, science is how we take our understanding of that math and try to manipulate it or try to find new truths about it, or, like, you know, write our own script in that language. So reading, writing, math, science is kind of how I think of it. But then, you know, the second part of that, you asked, like, how should we be teaching it? Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know.
Because like the mathematical computations for, like, let's say, to calculate the vibrations of a string going at 440 vibrations per second, like, that's not exactly practical math. Like, we're always going on about how music is math and how it's all this extra stuff. It's counting. Like, that's always the one we fall back on.
But again, that's retroactive. That's not. We don't approach music from a place of like, oh, well, I'm going to achieve this many vibrations per second at the same time as you getting this many vibrations per second. No, it's like you just, like, I don't know, in the purest sense, you would just, like, sit down, like every kid sits down at a piano and just starts, like, banging on keys, right? And like, that sound, like, our brains start to make associations between the motions and the sound that's produced by those motions. And, like, that's where, like, music comes from. But then we apply this other language retroactively.
Okay. So my thought process here is, and this is something that I'm perpetually cleaning up. Mostly because I don't have anyone to talk to. I'm all by myself, except with Susan.
I talk to myself all the time.
Susan is the one human I interact with outside of my wife. Yeah. My wife and Susan.
Sounds like a sitcom.
Three's Company?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's been done.
Me, my wife, and Susan. I don't know.
Susan, my wife, and I.
Yeah.
And the baby.
Anyway, So
what I'm hoping to find is some way for us to be teaching these subjects as a unified ideal or as a unified approach to creating a more unified approach to having these kind of conversations about what the arts are and what math and science actually are, because we've siloed them away. Mm-hmm. We've put math in the math department. And if I had $1 for every time we sat in the same chemistry classes for like 2 years. Mm-hmm. And if I had $1 for every time someone said, "This isn't science, it's math."
Right.
And we just deal with it. But there's no explanation to yes, because they are the same thing. And that goes to our extensions of music and language. Like, we have English over here, we have Spanish over here, we have Japanese over there somewhere. Like, what do you think we could learn if we were teaching music not as a skill to raise test scores, but rather as a language to increase how you are thinking or to change how you were thinking?
Well, okay, I thought you were going somewhere else with the question there, because, like, okay, getting to what you're talking about with, like, you know, the Gestalt idea of, like, teaching it as a whole rather than, like, divided into these different departments. I think the demarcation between subjects is important, like, in order to understand the base concepts. Like, if I showed you the color green and then tried to teach you what blue and yellow were from the color green, mm-hmm. How well is that? I mean, it's not going to go very well. Like, it's going to be, especially if you've never seen those colors before. Like, we have to assume you're like some, I don't know. I mean, you've never seen color before.
I mean, we're getting into some, like, Rousseauian.
Well, no. So I don't want to go too far, like, in that direction. It's just like it's the same thing. Like, if we're trying to teach music as an amalgamation of all the different subjects, it's like, well, if I teach you green, or if I teach you what blue and yellow are by starting at green. Like, it's just mm-hmm. really hard to, like, deconstruct something that already is. Now, on the other hand, if I taught you yellow and then I taught you blue and then they come together to make green, you know what I mean? Like, right. That's an easier, you know, I know that this is, like, oversimplifying things, like
right,
color
but
theory.
If we're going to go off of that, then it can make sense for little kids. It makes sense for, you know, elementary school, even into middle school to some degree, keeping these things fully separated. Mm-hmm. But by the time you're 14, 15, 16 years old, the answer of, yes, it's science, shut up, even though there's math, shut up, it doesn't work anymore. But it's the rare teacher that will sit down and talk to you about that relationship. And so my
Yeah, but that's exactly why, like, that human element of teaching can never be replaced. Like,
Wait, so we can't be completely virtual?
No, and like that's the thing with like all of these. Like, God, like it's like one of the biggest things that I hate from like this past year is how much everybody, like, I've heard educators and like administrators in education talking about how like, oh, virtual schooling is like going to replace actual like public schooling, like the sit down, the seated, like new normal, like it's never going to look the same. And I'm like, you cannot replace the interaction between teacher and student, between pedagogue and pupil. Like, they're just, you can't, because like the whole act of learning, at least in the way that we learn as humans, is exactly that. It's human. And humans are social creatures. There's no getting around that. Like, it's the way that we evolved. It's the way that like literally every society on Earth has developed. It's based on human interaction,
right?
Human with human, and so like you cannot replace that with online learning by like packaging it into like the most colorful, the prettiest, the most streamlined, like whatever platform you have online. That's never going to replace like the organic process that is teaching and learning.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like there is definitely a place for what we've been doing for the last year.
There's a place for it, but I think it's better served to somebody who has already started to reach certain hues of green, to go back to that reference, right? Like we've already been through the fundamentals from school. Like, we already know what blue is. We already understand what yellow is. And like we've started to put together our own like understanding of green. And then, like, at that point, once you have those fundamentals and you can start to make your own picture, that's where something like virtual schooling, I think, could be really successful, because it's like, oh, okay, my brain is going in a million different directions. The teacher has 19 other kids with their brains going in a million different directions. Maybe I do go off on my own tangent and do my own little exploration here.
Right.
But, like, if I didn't know which direction to point myself in the first place, like, if the teacher hadn't given me, like, hey, like, this is where we should start if you want to make these explorations.
Yeah. Now, were you completely virtual this entire year? Or?
No.
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 Okay.
Here in rural Southwest Missouri, no, they didn't. No. My unfortunately, my school's community does not have really any infrastructure, let alone like a reliable internet infrastructure.
Right.
So
did you guys get 1-to-1 then, or
the middle school is almost 1-to-1. Actually, the middle school might be 1-to-1 now, and they're working towards getting the high school 1-to-1. But like, I can hand a kid a computer, but if they don't have a home to go to, or like their home doesn't have internet.
Yeah, sorry, I should probably explain that. 1-to-1 ratio is simply one piece of technology per every student.
Yeah, like one Chromebook.
This has been a nationwide push for the better part of the last decade, but it hasn't fully caught on to a lot of schools, and it seems to be something of a slow roll.
Well, it's the same as like anything else, man. The smallest schools are like the last ones to catch up, and by the time they catch up, the next thing is coming around.
The smallest ones in the inner city schools.
Well,
because we just went 1-to-1.
Okay, like think of it financially. Like, does inner city not also count as like smallest?
It depends on which kind of district you're in.
But whenever we say smallest, I don't think that necessarily like by default refers to like population size. Okay. I think it has more to do with like specifically resources allocated, like allocated resources for the district. That's what really gives you like the size of a program. Like, what are you able to do with it? What extracurriculars are available to students, or like what technology are you able to provide? Okay. I guess that's for me. Whenever we say small school district, like I don't just think of Morrisville, Missouri, population 380. I'm also thinking of places like where you teach that are just severely underprivileged and like under resourced. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's fair. So, how did you go about like actually teaching music during this? Like that, for me, it was a frustrating mess of.
I mean, honestly, I was fortunate enough to have enough room in the band room that I could put all of the chairs 6 feet apart. Mm-hmm. Now, if I had, let's see, in the high school band, if I had 3 more students, I would not have had enough room in the band room. Just like straight up. But like having 32 students, 7 of them percussionists, like it's like
you lucked out.
It's so out of balance, like as far as instrumentation. But like with 32 students, I was just able to get a band set up in that band room with everybody 6 feet apart. So I didn't have to worry about, asking kids to spend money on like bell covers, which I would have had to ask them to do because as the band program doesn't get any money. Like we have a $0 budget from the school.
Yeah.
So the money that we do have, we have to look at where we're spending it. Administration was able to support us this past year with some technology upgrades and stuff. But anyway, so we were able to space out for like mitigation standards, just hardcore masking policies, like anytime they were out of their seat. But like as far as teaching music, it was just sit down band the whole year, you know. In the fall, at first, the kids were really upset that we didn't get to do marching band. So we went out a few times and just did some random, like I had them do like circle drill and like we marched back and forth in the parking lot, just like, really simple stuff like that. But for the most part, it was just concert band all year long. And, in the end, I think they saw how that pays off. Really digging in and focusing, because I gave them the hardest piece of music they had ever seen in their lives. And it was just a grade 4.5.
Abrams Pursuit.
Yeah. Well, it was Triumphal March from Aida. It was a really good arrangement by was it Douglas Richards or something like that? I forget who the arranger was, but really, really good arrangement. And 4.5, so like it should be achievable by a high school band, right? I mean, 4.5 is like a better high school band, but 4 is like high school,
right?
And they about lost their minds when I handed it to them. They were like, well, I've never seen so many notes on a page. There's how many pages to this? The clarinets had like 3 pages of music.
Oh, no.
So yeah, I mean, but like the only reason that there's 3 pages is because they had some 16th note runs. So there was like 2 bars per line on some parts of the page. But like, it just, by the end of the year, because I handed that out in September, and by the end of the year, they were able to play it like all the way through.
Right.
I mean, there's still plenty of things I wanted to rehearse and get back, and like we could have made better, certainly. But like after working on it all year, their ability to play that music, they really like, I saw them light up with it. They were like, "Oh, this is fun. This music is like fun to play." And I'm like, "Yeah, guys, like."
What is that process like for you? That process of like that slow. It's almost a slow roll of that light bulb being turned on with kids. Because for me, in my situation, I get like 2 kids out of the 7 that I have who that happens to, and that seems to motivate those 2 individuals. But I've always found it interesting just to watch that slow roll of like one kid, I got it.
Yeah.
And then the next person next. It's almost always like the first and second chairs in each sections that get it first.
Yeah. I think of it as like I have to, like as the biggest kid in the room, because that's how I think of myself. I'm just the biggest kid in the room.
Yeah,
I'm still a trumpet
music
player.
teachers.
Yeah. But in a way, I model like how to express excitement and express achievement, I guess. And then it really is you have to rely on those students who do start to get it, and I had like a couple lead players in the band that I'm specifically thinking of that like they started to get it, and like I saw them emulating the way that I expressed my excitement about their achievement. And like with them starting to do it, I didn't ask them to, right? Like it's just like, again, humans, social interaction, like we socially condition each other all the time. And so I use that to my advantage. And like whenever we would have like a really good run, and I would see them react in the same way that I had been reacting, but like that excitement,
it's genuine versus us putting it on. Like,
yeah, exactly. Well, and like my excitement was genuine too.
Yeah, but like we're always amplifying it.
Well,
like
yes,
our
exactly.
natural excitement for this line might be at a 7, but we're going to amp it up to a 9.5 because if we're not at a 9.5, we're going to get a 3 from them. If we're like there's
like in my ultimate like standard, because we're snobs.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Like, we're snobs about music. So like on a
blazer,
1 to 10, their achievement was really like. I'm like talking like a 4, but I would just lose my mind about it. I'd be like, "Holy crap, man, you fucking did it!" Whoa, and like exactly like you're saying, like amping it up. But then their genuine excitement, it starts to bleed out, to their peers and the people around them in the section, just the rest of the band. And like, I don't know. Honestly, what I've been grappling with is like, how do I get kids to see themselves as leaders in the band?
That struggle.
Because they don't necessarily realize that they, like the older kids, I don't think they necessarily realize how much the younger ones look up to them.
Right.
You know what I mean? Or like, and I don't think the younger ones actually know that they're looking up to the older ones. But like ultimately, we're all looking for an example to follow. We're all looking for a lead to get behind.
I mean, that was the thought process behind schooling in general, was let's give these kids older models to be around, but not so much older that it causes problems. Like you don't want high school seniors in the same building as a kindergartner.
Right.
Although, in my experience, that brings out, like, especially if you're making them work. Yeah, especially if you're making them work together on something. Like when I was at the Catholic school here in Springfield, our 8th graders were always working with the kindergartners. Yeah. And it just made them so gentle.
Yeah. Makes them gentle. It makes them reconsider what they're doing. It's like way more prefrontal brain than you expect to see.
Yeah. Like it's almost like that, like prior conditioning from the days in which the oldest children were still responsible for raising the younger kids. Like, and I realize that still happens now. Right. But when you're like the oldest of 12 kids and mom and dad are, in the field doing whatever it is they're doing, and you're responsible for making sure everyone gets fed.
Yeah, right.
And like it brings out some kind of like, I almost want to say that like without having a younger kid looking at you, it stunts you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because then you just get caught up in your own head, and it's really easy. Like, our brains lie to us all the time. Anyways, so it's really easy, like, whenever you're only talking to yourself or you're only playing for yourself, it's really easy to just get, like, oh, yeah, that's good. Like, ooh, I'm killing it.
Yeah, and then you get with, like,
playback. Yeah, and then you listen to playback, or you go and you play with somebody else, or you sing with somebody else or whatever, and, like, all of a sudden you're like, oh, shit. Like, I'm not exactly what I thought I was.
Ooh.
Yeah. I mean, that just happened to me. I taped for the Mystery Hour this last Friday night. Last Mystery Hour ever. I didn't know until I got there, so that was cool. It was an honor to be there. But like, there are these 2 other trumpet player dudes, just like this old guy Mark and Donovan, who run Springfield Music, and they're just like whatever, chilling, like BSing. And I was like, oh, I didn't go in there thinking I was a hot shot or anything like that. Like I always start from a place of
you're coming in to do a
humbleness. Job. Yeah, I'm like, it's just, I'm going to play my part. It's fine. But then, like, once they started playing, it just was like an eye opener for me, where I was like, yeah, I still have work to do. Now these guys have like 30 years on me,
right?
So there's nothing I can do about that. But like, still, I find whenever I'm practicing at home, I find myself, I'm like, okay, I'm in a good spot. Like, I'm comfortable with where I'm at and what I'm achieving on the horn. And then I listen to these guys play, and I'm like, God.
That's almost worse than those days where you have a great practice day, and then the next day is awful.
Yeah, where you like overworked yourself, or
like you either did too much yesterday without meaning to, or just like the clouds came in.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
And then all of a sudden you're just like, do I know how to play this?
Yeah,
I have a degree in doing this thing.
It's like your brain just needs time to defragment the disc and like synthesize the information.
That's why I'm a fan of taking breaks from an instrument.
Yeah. Well, and I cycle, between, it's been a while since I played trombone, but like obviously trumpet's my primary, but I've been doing a lot of guitar, a little bit of piano, and like I make sure that I'm cycling through them so that I'm building those mental associations.
I mean, it's also helping you because you learn how to approach things from a different angle.
Yeah.
Especially with the piano being so ubiquitous, still 500 years later.
Yeah.
It's like they knew what they were doing.
Well, I mean, nobody can see in the future, 500 years in the future.
Elon Musk might be able to.
Okay. I do not want to talk about Elon Musk right now. Okay. Let's stay off that topic. How's that sound?
I'm not actually talking about Elon Musk.
Okay.
I just think that he might be able to see into the future.
No. No.
Are you sure?
Yeah, he's useless. Okay, let's just move on.
All right.
All right.
Ouch.
Yeah. Okay.
Next week, we'll have Elon Musk on.
Oh, yeah, okay. You tell that guy to fuck off. You can edit that.
I'll tell him Eric Schrantz says fuck off.
Yeah. You just
He'll be
beep
like, who?
that out, right? When you edit it, just put a beep over it.
Yeah, we'll just put the explicit tag on this. It'll be fine.
My bad. I'm sorry.
It's
guys.
okay.
It's like,
Susan does it like 3 times a week.
oh, really?
Like I come into all of our episodes with some semblance of a script. Like there's always something that I've written out, even if it's not the most like thought out or like well edited thing as I want it to be. I'll sit down and everything's professional and I'm using proper syntax and I'm making sure that my lines of thought are leading into one another, and then Susan just like drops an F-bomb. Like, now I have to put the tag on it. Thanks, Susan. You
that's
get
the thing.
3. You get 2 of them before you have to put the tag on it. And and by the end of this conversation, you will be the reason why I put this tag on it.
That's okay, because conversation is never grammatically correct.
No.
Which, like, you extend that to music and something like jazz improv, and it, makes you raise an eyebrow. It's like the way that we talk. If you were to actually transcribe the way that we talk, very rarely is it an actually properly, like, grammatically correct sentence.
I mean, it would also make you depressed when you realize how many times you've said the words like or
Well, yeah, I mean, we all have tics.
Or I mean, like we all have those. We all have those little things that you, when you hear yourself talking, or you're like reading the transcript of yourself talking, you're thinking, "Oh God, did I?"
And then it's fascinating to get into like the way that different cultures fill that space. Like
everyone has their own filler words. Everyone has
filler words, or like you get to like African languages, and it's way more rhythmic. It's not about the word that fills the space, but it's like the response of the audience. Like I just remember this Jacob Collier video where he talked about it.
Right, but then that's also like, okay, I find these things really fascinating, like the connection between like the natural folk music of a community and the way they speak.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Especially like the focus of this show has been on the West because that's what I know, and I feel that's the easiest entry point because we can spend months talking about Indonesian gamelan music
with the right angles.
Yeah, and the learning how to make the right note out of that one little piece of metal.
Yeah. Well, it's not the note; it's the overtones clashing to create other notes. It's like transcendental,
But the way that we speak has such an interesting like syntax in the music itself. You can always tell.
It always reflects the language that it came from.
Like especially
or vice versa.
Especially with the French, because that language is just so built on itself.
Yeah.
I actually learned the reason why this was a conversation we had like I guess 5 or 6 years ago, maybe longer, because we might have been in here when we had this conversation.
Okay.
But you were asking, or we were trying to read French for just like the title of something, and you're like, why are there all these extra letters everywhere? This makes no sense. And I just looked at you and said, I have no idea, man. Just like this is how it's said. Yeah. Band kids not knowing how to speak French. What's wrong with you people?
Yeah,
it's because the original typists for the king were paid by the letter.
Oh, so they would just start throwing shit.
Yeah, every other language in Europe, every other language was by the word.
Yeah.
The French did it by the letter. Huh. And so then...
Well, yeah, because 30 Years' War.
Right, and then to make things even better for them, they go through this cycle of like building up the language because when it's pared down, they think it's really informal.
Oh, okay.
They think it's too informal.
It's too common.
And so then they just take that informal thing and they build on top of it rather than changing it.
We don't spell like peasants. we have extra money to spend on our ink. Let's go. Like
but so
Les Mis.
That's when you get like on the day of today that is this day, also known as Tuesday.
Also known, yeah, right. Yeah. God, anytime I think of French, I always think of the example from music history class. What is it? Ferai un vers post mi sonnel, or something like that. So I was teaching music history last year, and I used that example in class because it's just one of those standard like pre-Renaissance music. It was like troubadour music or whatever. And you go and you look through the translation. You actually read the story that song's about. And I was like, oh my God, I played this in a public school setting.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God.
That's the nice thing about this language.
The dude's talking about like getting with these two ladies and how like they took a cat and like scratched it down his back. I'm like, what? You need to go and listen. Like, you need to look up the translation to that piece, man.
What piece is this?
It's Ferai un vers post mi sonnel.
Okay,
we can look it up later.
Who is it?
It's a troubadour song. That's the thing. We don't have like a specific composer. It's just like we just have the text of it, and it's very salacious.
Well, that's the thing about madrigals, and this was one of Webb's favorite sayings. Also, fa la la means whatever you want it to, which I think has some horrifying implications for Deck the Hall. It's Christmas. Let's get it on.
Fa la 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 la. Boughs of holly. Fa la 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 la.
Is that what they're calling it these days?
Where'd that holly come from? I don't know. Interesting. Fa-la-la. Oh, no. Oh, so TikTok reference. Sorry, since you brought it up.
Yeah.
Like nonsense lyrics.
Yeah.
Right? There's, oh man, I'm going to like misquote so much here. But like, okay, general gist of it, I saw this TikTok where like the lady was talking about how well music preserves memory, right? And there was this one guy back in like the 40s who's going around and just doing research on nonsense lyrics, like fa-la-la, tra-la-la, like anything like that, nonsense lyrics. And he was in Scotland, and I was talking to like one of the local people. And they're like, "Oh yeah, we've got a song like that. It has this really nonsense lyrical like refrain, essentially." And he sang it for him. And what they realized is it wasn't actually nonsense. It was like the only known fragments of spoken Old Nord, like Old Norse language, like talking like ancient Vikings language. And it had been preserved in this folk song. I wish I could remember the name of it so we could look it up later as well. But like, it was just crazy that like, no, that's not nonsense. That's Old Norse. And it's like literally one of the only 3 fragments of Old Norse that we know what it sounded like. Yeah, it is crazy. And it's just like this folk song that they would like sing to themselves, like in the fields or whatever. Yeah. It's a musical memory, you know.
These things are just passed down.
Yeah. So maybe like somewhere along the line, fa-la-la did actually mean like, let's go, you know, or, you know, something like that.
Merry Christmas, everybody. Don't forget the reason of this season.
Just like truly like ancient like Gaelic or, you know, I don't know.
It turns out you're singing about seaweed.
Yeah, seaweed. Yeah, something like that. Dulamana.
I am so glad you remembered that.
Oh my gosh, what do you mean that I remembered it? Sandquist programmed it at every single men's choir concert.
No, it was only 1 year that he did it.
Dude, yeah, I heard that piece. If it was 1 year, then I went to like 5 different concerts of his in that 1 year because I heard that piece so much. I was like, okay, so Sandquist likes this piece.
No, like that's the thing. We only did that once, and that was our freshman year.
No, I'm not talking about his high school choir. I'm talking about that men's choir he did in Rome.
They never did it. They
yes,
never.
They
it was.
did.
It was.
They absolutely did.
It was. That was the high school men.
No.
I was a part of that. I was a part of that. Like I was drafted specifically for it because they needed more guys.
Dude, I specifically remember a bunch of old dudes standing up in front at like that one, what is it, Methodist church that's right next to where Troop 83, or it was Presbyterian.
Yeah.
At the Presbyterian church where Troop 83 used to have their meetings. I sat in that chapel and watched a bunch of old dudes with white beards sing that like at the top of their voice, man. Like, oh man, this is a cool piece for the 5th time.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. So I don't know if that was before or after you were in his men's thing.
I did it for high school.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
8th grade to high school.
Whatever.
Oh.
Yeah. There's the thing.
So.
Musical memory. Language. Where did this start? I don't even know where this started. How did I get to?
I don't know. It just happens. Okay. We're talking about random things, and I said seaweed.
Oh yeah. Because the old seaweed. Yeah.
So. If you were to go about changing how we talked about music, because I mean, this is something I do. Maybe this is just something I do and I'm crazy, but that's entirely possible. If you could change one thing about how we were teaching music.
Oh, talking about or teaching? Because you just changed the question.
Sorry. Well, let's do talking about and then teaching it.
Okay.
How would you go about?
I don't think there's a wrong way to talk about it.
Yeah.
I mean, like what is it to you? You know, like it's such a subjective, like the interpretation of music is so subjective that like to say that there's a wrong way to talk about it, I think it could be construed as like classist or nationalist or I don't know, like whatever other is.
I would definitely feel awkward like going up to some guys in a symphony hall and being like, "Man, that Bach piece you did was dope," and then just running off.
Yeah, well, okay, so like, but that's the thing. So they're like from one culture, like they're from their own setting. But like if I was at home, like if I was showing Kurt like Smetana's Moldau or something like that, like 100%, that's how I'd talk about Smetana's Moldau. I'm like, this shit's dope, man. Like just with the depiction of the river and like the different sections that it goes through, like. That's just the vernacular, you know. Right. That's not the music. It's just the vernacular we use to describe the music. So I don't think that there's a wrong way to talk about it because ultimately it's like, what do you hear? You know, like how do you put music into words? You can't. You know, like not actually.
Right.
You know, we can sing. That's the combination of music and words, but that's not putting music in or putting music into words. It's putting music with words.
All right. So if you were to change one thing, how about how we taught it then?
How we taught it. You know, maybe this is just because I'm a music educator, but I think that music would be the center of the curriculum because it's the synthesis of all subjects. Mm-hmm. It ties in history, math, science, physics. Like you can tie in literature. Like it reflects the culture that it came from in the same way that literature does, and so it makes conversations about literature and literary interpretations much easier, especially whenever you get into program music with the depiction of characters, and then you can use that to talk about like character arcs and tropes in stories and like how, you know, identifying a protagonist, like which theme is the theme of the protagonist, which is the theme that keeps coming up, like in Mahler's Fifth, da 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 da. You know? It's you can use music to synthesize literally every other subject in the building. At least I've not found one that you couldn't tie back into music. And so if I was to change the way that we teach it, I would put music at the center of the curriculum. And it doesn't have to be instrumental music.
Right.
It could be vocal music. It could be purely improvisational, just like freaking like high schoolers do an ORF method. Like, I don't care, but like putting music at the center of the curriculum and you build out from there, I think is what I envision being one of the most like, you know, you were talking about like a Gestalt approach to teaching these subjects. I think that would be through music. Not to say that everybody's going to leave high school as like some virtuoso like musician or anything, but it just gives you the chance to synthesize those conversations.
So then do you think we spend too much time focusing on the virtuoso musician element? Because that's...
No, I think we spend too much time focusing on the competition achievement aspect. Mm-hmm. And, like, that's cool and all to go to a competition and, like, see how, in theory, your friends from other places are doing, you know? That's really cool, and it's nice to, like, compare yourselves. But then, like, I think it's too easy to get caught up in we have to be better than them. It's like, well, no, you don't have to be better than them. You just have to be better than yourself yesterday.
Right. But, I mean, that's also how we... That also gets into like how we teach people in general.
Well, yeah, but that's what you're asking. Is like how would you change it?
That's fair.
Yeah. So you know, right now it's like music is in the curriculum. Music is ancillary, right? It's disposable. My program right now, like our program at MCE right now is like good evidence of how when they have to start cutting things, music gets cut. I have a $0 budget from the school right now. Now, maybe that changes. They just had their budget meeting this past week, and like I did talk to the superintendent, so maybe that changes. I got my fingers crossed for it.
Right.
But you know, I think that is a travesty, honestly, and we're doing a disservice to what could be the most powerful motivator, like in the school, because you don't have to be athletic to make music. You know, you don't have to be super smart to make music. You don't have to like music is about as universal as it gets. Mm-hmm.
That is a statement.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a statement. I don't know. I mean, did I answer your question?
I mean,
yeah. I don't know.
I don't fucking know.
Yeah, I don't know.
There, I'll put the tag on myself there.
Oh, okay, there.
There we go. There it is. It's already going on. It's fine.
Sorry. That's my bad.
It's all right. So,
yeah. Well, where do you want to pick up?
We've got a few more minutes here, so we might as well keep going. Although that seemed like a great place to just stop.
I mean, if you want to stop,
no.
There.
Like that. This is fun. I'm having fun here, but I've also lost my screen, so I have no idea how long we're going.
Oh, gotcha. Wait.
So we'll edit this part out here.
Oh, okay. This is the best part of the show.
We're at 39.
39. Oh, okay. So coming up on. Okay.
Yeah, we've got time still. So, how do you find the process being different between whenever you are playing someone else's stuff and you're writing your own? Because you are the arranger for Funk Tank, yes?
Not full-on arranger. I would say I've arranged about 80% of the horn parts for Funk Tank.
Yeah, so let's talk.
And I've written like some lyrics and like presented song ideas, but I'm not like
So let's talk. Funk Tank is how many members?
10 right now. We're about to be down to 9. Mm-hmm. Marcus is moving to DC.
Yeah, it is a funk band here in Springfield. It's been active for 5 years? 4 or 5 years? 7? Oh, dear. I'm losing track of time.
7 at this point. Check us out on Spotify.
Funk Tank music.
Here's my plug.
How do you find that process then whenever you're like playing a line that you wrote to be different than if you're playing someone else's?
Hell of a lot easier.
Yeah.
Like that was one of the like breakthrough things that happened for me with Funk Tank because I would get just like crippling stage fright. Honestly, like if I had a solo, like I had in my entire time in wind ensemble here at MSU, I had like maybe 2 solos the entire time. Or if I was doing like for my senior recital, or if I was doing a convo performance or something for Musicale, for Symphonia, I would get just like this crippling stage fright where like right before I went on, like I'd start shaking, my palms would sweat, and I'm like, but I've been practicing, like I know this music, and I would practice it to the point where I was very confident with that music. But then as soon as it came time to like perform it for a group, I couldn't control my breath.
You just see people staring at you.
Yeah, and it's like, well, it's not even like the people staring at me. It's just like all of a sudden, like now me playing it matters, and like, oh shit, and I want to do really well. It's like with anything else in my life. It's like if I'm going to do it, I want to do it well. And then that fear, like I guess the fear of like not doing well, just like creeps in and like would stop me. But like with Funk Tank, that completely changed. Like once I started playing shows with Funk Tank, I didn't realize it at first, but after like the 3rd or 4th show, it occurred to me. I was like, wait, I'm the only trumpet player on stage, and like it's not like I don't have any stage fright. Like it's not happening. Like I'm just going up and I'm just like doing my thing. And I think honestly, it has a lot to do with like the fact that like since I did, especially in the beginning, since I was the only horn player, like all of the parts were just like my own. So nobody knows how this is supposed to go. Like they don't know how to judge it besides like the literal like sound that's coming out of my instrument. Like I can produce a good sound, like whether it's the right or wrong notes, that's hit or miss sometimes.
Right. I mean, that's also the difference between, let's say, like playing in a funk band and playing Mahler's Fifth.
Yeah, you're right. I guess what it is like, it's that feeling of having ultimate authority. You know what I mean? Like the absolute authority over that music is, I think, the difference. Because, like, even though I would practice something like whenever I played Charlier number 2, I think it was, for either Convo or Musicale, I forget which one. But I played Charlier 2. I practiced that until I felt like I had good authority over it. Yeah. But in the end, like, I'm not the one who conceptualized it. I'm not the one who actually, like wrote that music. And I mean, like, that's the whole point of being a professional musician. Like if I was, Hardenberger or Wayne Bergeron or like, just like Paco Flores. If I was one of those like monster trumpet players, that's what they do is they do practice it and study the music to the point where they could have been the person who wrote it. But like, I guess I never found that fire to like know somebody else's musical ideas so in depth. But then, whenever I start writing for Funk Tank, like it started here. I know how it developed to this point. I understand how and why it fits into the music the way it does. Even through the collaborative effort of like, Dan Winehouse or Devin or like Ryan Woodhouse, any of them like in the band, like giving feedback about what should happen with the horn parts. Like I still understand how the horn part evolved and how it ended up to what it is. And I understand like my own capabilities in how I play it. So I guess just having such an intimate connection to the music makes it a lot easier for me to not get that stage fright.
Yeah, like I find, and maybe this is because I haven't written anything for quite a while, but I found that whenever I was writing things and something like it was a good day, you would think, yeah, this is serviceable. I can use this. But then you take something like, and it doesn't matter how like personal it might have been. As soon as it's on the stage, everyone can have this song. Yeah. But I almost find at times like the responsibility of bringing to life something that is considerably older is almost more crushing than just saying, all right, here's an idea. It doesn't matter if I like my wife and kid just died in a car crash. This is the song I wrote to this is the song I wrote to process that, and it's on stage. Yeah. But like for some reason if it's mine and I'm writing that kind of song, it's almost more freeing than, say, like you're doing, I don't know, Kindertotenlieder.
Yeah.
But I think that one's a different song entirely. That's a hard one to listen to.
I'll take your word for it, you vocalist.
I mean, you're singing about the songs of death of children, and you're still trying to like maintain your decorum,
Right? Yeah,
and your technique.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know, man. Like, I guess there's that aspect as well, like making that relevant. I guess.
Right, but you would almost think that it'd be easier to do someone else's stuff because that's taken out of the way.
Yeah,
and maybe it is if you don't have like that reverence for someone.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you were to go and just, like, do a cover band and do nothing but play, like, Brass Machine for 7 hours in a row.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's a different feeling, and you just, like, you slid one of yours in there next to all of
Yeah, right. I don't know. With the writing process, it's always cool when you hit that stride, you know? Like, with Abstract Pack Rat, whenever we wrote Why Does Love Gotta Be So Hard?
Yeah.
And that literally in the span of, like, an hour and a half. Like all of the, like it went from never existing to like we had harmonized horn parts, all the way through it, and it was like, where did that come from? I don't know, but it worked. And like it's almost like there are certain days in which you just like let go in the right way. Yeah, just the right things line up, the right ideas.
Yeah, and then you get out of your own way to allow them to happen. And I feel like, especially on the days where we're just like, we go into the room like, all right, we're going to get this line, we're going to work this part out until it's there.
Yeah.
But the more you think that, the worse it gets.
Yeah, the more you get caught up on that one part.
Yeah.
Instead of just like...
Or you go into it thinking, like even if you're practicing someone else's stuff, like I'm going to get this line to the point where it's in here, and I don't have to think about it, and we can move on to the next line. But the more you think about, like, why isn't my pinky working? Yeah. It's always the small thing. It's like, oh, that felt just a little strange. Let me see if I can fix that. And then all of a sudden you're like, your hands are like frozen in place.
You get such like a chicken's view of the world, as opposed to, I'm stealing that from Zastapil, because he talked about like, yeah, you can have a bird's eye view. It could be an eagle or it could be a chicken. They're both birds.
I like that.
Yeah, I know, right? And it's like, think about a chicken. It's like its face is literally on the dirt all the time. And like, what does a chicken do? Like, I don't know, shit. Like, it's just like shits and lays eggs. Yeah, it's
Eat
like
cicadas.
It wakes up every morning having to refigure out what is and is not food. You know, that's a chicken. Or you have the eagle, like it's also a bird's eye view, way up high, where like you can see the entire earth, and like eagles are like stupid smart and like good hunters and like everything else like that. So it's the same thing. If you get that chicken's eye view, it's like, you know, you're not getting anywhere. It's just freaking...
That's going to be our new motto here on the show.
Oh, okay. You thank John Zastapil for that? He's a fantastic pedagogue.
In Time, a music history podcast, the chicken's eye view of the world.
Chicken? No, you want the eagle eye. You want the eagle's eye view.
Yeah, but that one sounds more cliche. If you were like, you're walking down the street and all of a sudden you see some store like the eagle eye of your sporting goods needs.
It's kind of like a
okay,
kitsch,
yeah,
like
sure, whatever. Then someone's like, the chicken's eye view. You're
like, wait, what the
what? What is that?
What the hell are they?
Can I have
about?
A chicken eye view?
Yeah.
Wait, is that the view that it gets when I'm eating it? Maybe I don't want a chicken eye view.
Get 8. But yeah, so. I guess at this point with Funk Tank, though, like just to regress back into like where this segment started, like more and more, it feels like my work is on the business side of it. You know, just making sure that the accounts are in line, and you know, making sure that our taxes are paid, since we had to incorporate as an LLC. And the only reason we did that was so that we could have a bank account instead of just a sweaty wad of cash in a plastic bag. You know, we were literally like, hey guys, there's a lot of cash laying around. Like we got to like where there's like $1,500 in cash of band money, you know, after like paying everybody out. We had this huge pile of money. It was like, you know, it'd be safer if we had a bank account. It's like, oh, okay, well, let's get a bank account.
Wait, so we shouldn't just be throwing our money in sandwich bags?
No. But then, you know, it's like, to get a bank account, you need to be an entity, like a legal entity. And instead of putting it in any one person's name, we had to incorporate it as an LLC. But if you're an LLC, that means you have to pay taxes. And guess who never wants to worry about taxes? Fucking anybody in a goddamn band. Okay?
What, musicians don't like money and math? Like, we like money, but we don't like the math.
Yeah, I don't like the, like, oh, well, there's official things that have to happen with it. So, like, I sort of just I've been taking up the mantle and making sure that like all of that's in order so that, you know, it just sucks because if you want a CPA to do it for you, it's like $500. And I'm like, well, that's like easily 30% of the money we have right now. So what, like,
Get down to 10 and
yeah,
then
I'm
try.
like, I guess I need to do that myself.
Yeah.
So that's what happened this past year. Is I literally spent like 6 hours on a Saturday just reading tax documents and making sure that I was filling out the right ones. And I haven't heard from the IRS yet, so I'm going to say no news is good news.
That's
you know.
until they're knocking on your door at 3 a.m.
Well, here's the thing, though. Like a lot of the things were like asking questions about like if your company is worth less than $250,000 or if you have less than $5 million in assets, and I'm like, yeah, we're fine. Like we're good. You know,
Small Missouri band.
yeah, literally like we got like $2,000 in assets like total, so it would cost the IRS exponentially more to like audit us than the money like if we missed out on like $20 of taxes.
Yeah, like,
ultimately is what we're looking
We're
at.
not LLC here yet, but that's something I need to work on.
Yeah.
But when we were setting
If you
up,
do it right, you could nonprofit.
yeah, when we were setting up our PayPal, because if we want to, you know, provide services, we have to be able to take money as well as give it.
Right.
They're asking, how much money do you think you're going to make? I'm like,
Tens of dollars?
all $30 that
Yeah, right.
that I haven't been given yet.
Yeah.
Oh, the last one. If it becomes a problem, we'll fix it. Whatever.
Yeah. But yeah.
Indeed.
I know. Getting old, man.
Did you? I haven't heard anything about Radiohead lately.
Yeah, I don't know.
Did you like their last album?
Yeah. Anima?
Yeah.
Yeah. Dude, I dug it a lot. Did you watch his film on Netflix?
No, I didn't.
Dude, you need to watch it.
Yeah.
Like, it's good. It's really good. It was some New York dance company. I forget the name of it, and I feel like an uncultured swine because I can't remember the name of it, but whatever. Incredible. Absolutely incredible. And it's like everything you would expect from Tom York. It's like, you know, all weird and like produced to the nines.
Mm-hmm.
Like literally you can, if you have the right sound system, you could crank it all the way up to 100 and it won't hurt your ears because like the production on it is just pristine as you would expect from him.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely worth your time. Go check it out.
Okay.
It's Anima. It's
Okay.
if you just search that on Netflix, it'll come right up. It's like a 15-minute video. Art video, or art film, you could think of it as. Again, some New York dance company with Tom York as the protagonist in this little story that he tells. It's, you know, tale as old as time is like a little love story. It's really cool. It's effective.
Yeah.
So
Anima's an interesting choice. Like Carl Jung is just like appearing everywhere lately, and I don't know what to do with it.
do you think it's specifically like a reference to?
I mean, that is a Jungian concept. The anima being the.
That's Aristotle.
Is it?
Well, yeah, it's like Aristotle's like all the way back, like talking about corporeal.
I mean, I approached it through psychology, or at least that's how I discovered it. But I haven't gotten into Aristotle yet.
Right, but you can't say that Jung wasn't in philosophy.
I'm sure he didn't just like take those names from anything. Like,
Right.
But BTS just released an entire album with like with Jungian lyrics that I
Really?
still have, like. What is this? Like, why? This isn't something that's interesting to me. It's like, why is it we are?
It's a cycle, man.
Well,
we're just getting back. We're just getting back to the id. That's all.
Yeah, like we're fascinated by things that came before us, but it's really interesting to see like where these random things just appear.
Well, yeah, it's like once you wait long enough, it's new again. You know, even though it's not actually new, it seems new again. But then again, like think of BTS's like targeted demographic. Do you think they understand like Jungian psychology?
I mean,
probably
not. But
understand that that's what's being presented to them, let alone if they even know the lyrics themselves.
right, but then that's part of the genius of it. It's like you're going to take this thing that is so dense and so above everyone else's like head. Like your target audience is 12-year-old girls across the world.
And boys, I have to be fair.
Okay,
Like,
that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
Your audience are the teens and tweens and in-betweens.
Yeah.
Let's take some of the most dense psychological literature of the 20th century, gussy it up into the form of a pop song, and see if they catch on to what it is.
Now, do you think that was their actual intention, or do you think that that's just your interpretation or like your understanding of
I'm
what
pretty
they're-
sure that is their intention, at least for that one album.
Okay. I mean, I don't I don't know anything about BTS
nor
their lyrics.
I don't either, and I'm about to do some deep dives onto them for this next season. That's going to come
have some
up.
sort of like statement or analysis. Of
but just the fact that I'm like literally just scrolling through the internet one day and it's some article, BTS and Carl Jung, and like, what? What do either of these worlds have to do with anything?
Yeah,
like what does Viva La Vida actually have to do with
nihilism,
liberty leading the people?
Oh, okay.
Because that's that album cover. So you just randomly see these things in places.
Well, because it was Viva la Revolution, Viva la Vida.
Well, no, like Viva La Vida was its own separate thing.
Yeah.
And I don't think it got paired with that image. At least I could be wrong. I'm probably wrong. What do I know? I'm not a specialist. I'm a grand generalist, which is why it's more fun that way.
Yeah,
it really is, because then you're not like so tied into like this is the analysis of the heartbeat of this song.
Yeah, but that's how the saying goes, right? Mm-hmm. Jack of all trades, master of none, but better than a master of one.
Yeah,
like that's the full saying.
Yeah. Oh.
You didn't?
I hadn't heard. No, I didn't know that one.
Oh. Yeah, or blood is thicker than water. It's the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb.
Yes, that one I knew.
That one, okay.
That one
cool.
I knew, because the Baptists are fond of reminding us of that one.
But yeah, better than a master of none. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, but like the nice thing about approaching this as a generalist is it lets you see connections between things that you don't when you're just so buried into something.
Chicken's eye view.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like when you have that just mono focus of like, I need to be a specialist. I need to understand everything about medieval English chant.
Yeah. Oh God, Jesus, why? Yeah, but I mean.
But then you're missing out on the similarities between that and Scottish chant. Like, I don't think there's. Yeah, I haven't seen someone do that in a long time.
Guidonian. That wasn't even correct Guidonian. No, I just know that it has to do with the knuckles. Yeah. Whatever.
Guido di Arezzo.
Yeah.
The best name for a podcast.
Is it?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
We could call ourselves the Guidos.
Ooh. No. It's not your word, Zach. That's not your word. Oh, God. I don't know him. Sam would watch this and just murder you.
I mean, she'll just label this pretentious as fuck.
She already did.
Oh, that's good.
Before I even got here, I promise.
That happened here. Well, that seems like as good of a time as any to wrap things up.
Okay. Yeah, we covered a lot. I don't know if I actually answered any questions, but I certainly spoke a lot.
I found this to be interesting.
Oh. I'm sure.
So if you guys have gotten any value out of this, this has been In Time, a Music History podcast. We are available on our social media accounts on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, all at In Time Pod. You can find us on our website at intimepod.com, where you'll also find detailed show notes, links to episodes, as well as upcoming announcements, and our new donations page, which you can become a one-time donation, make a one-time donation of $1, $5, $10, or $20. Just go to intime.com/donate and fill out that information there. Every little bit helps us. We'd like to get some money into the show. I'd like to be able to get some new equipment and pay Susan. And
one last plug: check out Abstract Pack Rat on YouTube and check out Funk Tank.
Yeah.
Abstract Pack Rat is our project. Funk Tank is a project I've been in for a while.
Yeah.
So check out those bands if you're looking for music that makes you scratch your head.
Yeah. This has been In Time, a Music History podcast. I'm Zachary Singer.
I'm Eric Schrantz.
Until next week, remember to stay in time.